We are talking about horizontal gaze nystagmus, HGN, specifically cross-examining a police officer about the HGN. This is related to DWI cases. The horizontal gaze nystagmus is one of the standardized field sobriety tests. It is an involuntary jerking in the eye, and a person who is trained on how to do this, what they say they can do is they can put a stimulus, some either their finger or a pen or something, 12 to 18 inches in front of your eyes and slightly raised above. They move it back and forth. They watch your eyes to see if they track equally, if they track smoothly, if they have this involuntary jerking. This is related to alcohol because when you have alcohol in your system of above a certain level, it can cause your muscles to not move the way they normally do. And that's where you get this involuntary jerking of the eye. Now, they can't say for sure if it's alcohol, but typically CNS or central nervous system depressants will, like alcohol, will cause this HGN. Other types of drugs will not cause it. And so it is a requirement for the state to prove that their police officer is an expert in administering this test if they're going to try to put it in front of the jury and use it as evidence. So what you do is you cross-examine that police officer. We're going to discuss some strategies on how to do that right now. So first, let's talk about officer qualifications. The officer has to be qualified to perform this test. That means they have to be an expert under the 702 705, the various rules in the Texas Rules of Evidence that discuss expert testimony. The HGN is considered scientific testimony, and so it has to pass what's called the Kelly or Dalbert standards. Those are two famous cases that say basically the state has to prove that the test was done correctly on this specific instance, that it's a reliable test, and that it can be used to aid the jury in making a determination of some fact in the case. You want to also look at environmental factors, things like the temperature, things like the wind conditions. There's optical kinetic nystagmus, meaning if somebody was looking at a train, if you've ever seen a train go by, what happens is your eyes will kind of pick one point of the train and follow it, and they'll go back and forth. Well, the same thing can happen with the red and blue overhead lights. If you're focused on the stimulus, it is supposed to correct for that, but there may be an argument that the officer didn't do it correctly, or maybe your client is just not able to track that stimulus the same way, and so the test was not administered properly on this occasion. You want to talk about your suspect physical condition, the suspect being our client in this case. Do they have naturally occurring nystagmus? This is something that some people do have, where their eyes do not move smoothly all the time. Look at the clues that they observed. Get the officer to talk about those things. Did he really observe? Like, how did he observe it? Exactly when in the video did he observe it? If the officer's body camera captured the eye movement, ask him to point out. Can he really point out where he thinks this movement is? If you've seen the video as the defense counsel and it's not there, I think the jury's going to go with you and what they believe they see on video, rather than the officer just saying he saw it, even though it was not captured on video. Alternative explanations are what we would call any reason why somebody's eyes may have this involuntary jerking, or why the officer might have thought that way, not involving the use of alcohol. So, for example, sometimes officers will say that the eyes are red and bloodshot. That's not one of the clues for the HGN, but they'll try to argue that as evidence of intoxication. Anybody who's stayed up late in college knows your eyes will get very red and dry if you haven't gotten enough sleep. If you wear contact lenses, your eyes can get red and dry and bloodshot just from wearing those. I know when I was a prosecutor, I actually didn't wear contact lenses. I did at the time, but I would take them out for trial because I didn't want my eyes looking red and bloodshot. And I knew that was an issue that defense attorneys would go over. You also can look at the training records for the police officer involved, and then the legal issues, the legal rules. Okay, when I talk about the legal rules, I'm talking about the Standardized Field Sobriety Test Manual, the SFST manual, and all the things that they say to do in that manual. There's certain timing that you have to follow for the passes on the various tests. You're supposed to approximate an angle approximating 45 degrees and see if you can produce the nystagmus prior to 45 degrees. These are the words that I've heard officers use before, and they'll say things like, can you produce it? If they say something like that, you want to always listen on a cross-examination to the answer, because if they're saying something like produce it, well, if they produced it, then that means it wasn't naturally occurring in your client. So that's a great general rule in cross-examination overall, but these are the tips for HGN. I thank you guys for listening. And as always, these videos are for educational purposes only. It doesn't create an attorney-client relationship. But more importantly, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you saw. Leave a comment below for ideas for future videos, or if you have a question you always wanted to hear a legal answer for, we can give you some type of educational answer. If you got a specific question, you need to go talk to an attorney and get a specific answer from them.